The sound of the lock stayed in Lee's ears long after the door stopped moving. It was not loud, it was not violent, but it was final. Lee stood frozen in the middle of the room, staring at the wooden door as if it might open again on its own. His heart beat fast, then faster, then slowed into a heavy ache in his chest. He had been locked in before, not in rooms but in moments. Moments where escape was impossible. This felt the same. Lee walked slowly toward the door and placed his small hand on the wood. It was solid, strong, the kind of door meant to keep something in or out. He pushed gently. Nothing. He pushed harder. Still nothing. Fear rose in his throat like heat. He stepped back, breathing fast, then forced himself to stop. Panic had never helped him before. Panic only made people notice. Lee looked around the room. The small house was quiet, simple, clean. Dried herbs hung from the ceiling, tied in careful bundles. Roots rested on wooden shelves, sorted by size and shape. Bowls and tools sat neatly arranged, like everything here had a place. Nothing felt angry. Nothing felt dangerous. But Lee was still alone. Minutes passed. Then more. Lee sat on the floor, hugging his knees, listening. He heard faint movement outside, footsteps, voices far away. The sound of village life continuing without him. Eventually, the lock clicked again. The door opened. Lee stepped inside. Lee jumped to his feet instantly, eyes wide, ready to run even though there was nowhere to go. Lee raised one hand slowly. Not to strike, not to command, to calm. He spoke again in that unfamiliar language, slower now. His tone was steady, almost gentle, as if he were speaking to a frightened animal. Lee did not understand the words, but he understood the intention. Lee closed the door behind him but did not lock it. That mattered. Lee walked past Lee and set something on the table. A bowl of warm liquid. Steam rose gently from it, carrying a sharp, earthy smell. Lee's stomach tightened. Lee gestured for Lee to sit. Lee hesitated, then sat. Lee placed the bowl in front of him and pointed. Lee lifted it carefully and drank. The liquid was bitter, warm, and strange, but it settled in his stomach like something meant to be there. Lee watched closely, studying Lee's face, his breathing, the way his hands trembled slightly. When Lee finished, Lee nodded once. That night, Lee did not speak much, but he stayed. He did not leave Lee alone again. The next morning, Lee woke Lee before the sun fully rose. Lee followed him outside. The village was quiet, wrapped in pale morning light. Mist hung low over the fields. The air smelled clean and sharp. Lee walked with purpose, and Lee followed instinctively. They stopped near the edge of the village where tall grass met open land. Lee pointed to the ground. Then he showed Lee how to stand. Feet planted, back straight, breathing slow. Lee moved. His body flowed in controlled, precise motion, strong but silent. Each movement had intention. Each pause had meaning. Lee watched, mesmerized. Lee repeated the motion slowly. Then he looked at Lee. Lee tried to copy him. At first, he stumbled. His arms moved too fast. His balance failed. Lee corrected him gently. He adjusted Lee's shoulders, his stance, his breathing. No words, just patience. Days passed. Lee taught Lee through action, not explanation, how to stand, how to fall without injury, how to breathe when fear wanted to take control. Lee learned quickly. His body remembered things his mind could not explain: how to move quietly, how to stay alert, how to survive without drawing attention. At night, Lee taught him something different: healing. Lee showed him the herbs hanging in the house. He pointed to leaves, roots, bark. He crushed some between his fingers and let Lee smell them. Lee demonstrated how to boil them, how to grind them, how to mix them with care. This leaf for pain, that root for fever, this bark for swelling. Lee never rushed. Lee noticed that Lee treated medicine the same way he treated movement, with respect. Weeks passed, then months. Lee stopped hiding in corners. He still spoke little, but his eyes became sharper. His posture changed. His fear did not disappear, but it learned where to stand. The villagers noticed. They saw the foreign boy walking beside Lee each morning. They saw him helping gather herbs, carrying water, cleaning tools. Some were curious. Some were suspicious. But Lee's presence kept Question quiet. One afternoon, a woman came to the house, holding her arm tightly, her face twisted in pain. Lee listened calmly, then looked at Lee. Lee froze. Lee nodded toward the herbs. Lee hesitated, then moved. He selected leaves Lee had shown him before. His hands shook, but he remembered the steps. He crushed the leaves carefully and applied them as Lee guided him. The woman's breathing slowed. Her pain eased. She stared at Lee like she was seeing something impossible. Word spread, slowly, carefully. Lee never announced anything, but people began to come. For small things at first. Swelling, pain, fever. Lee let Lee watch, then help, then lead with supervision. Lee learned not just how to heal, but when not to. Not everything needed action. Some things needed time. One evening, Lee felt dizzy. He tried to ignore it. He had learned that showing weakness could be dangerous, but the dizziness returned. Stronger this time. The room tilted. His vision blurred. Lee noticed immediately. He placed a hand on Lee's shoulder. Lee tried to speak, but his words tangled. His legs weakened. The world spun. Lee caught him just before he fell. Lee's body burned with heat. His breathing became shallow. His skin felt wrong, too hot, too tight. Lee laid him down quickly. Lee drifted in and out of awareness. He heard Lee moving fast for the first time. Bowls clinking, water boiling, herbs being crushed with urgency. Lee wanted to open his eyes. He couldn't. Pain spread through his chest like fire. His head throbbed. The last thing he felt was Lee's hand pressing something cool against his forehead. Then darkness took him.